Hi there, my name's Sam Blake, and I'm a best-selling crime writer. I have written three police procedurals you can see behind me in the Cat Connolly trilogy, and two standalones, Keep Your Eyes on Me and The Dark Room. But I've also set up a company called the Inkwell Group, which I'm going to tell you a little bit about later, and a big website called writing.ie, which is one of the biggest websites in Europe for writing resources. It's also an award-winning site, and it contains thousands of articles which are aimed at new writers to help you learn to write. Getting published can take longer than you think. My debut novel, Little Bones, which is behind me there, was actually the fifth book that I'd written, and I'd written many partials as well. And it took me at least three books to find my voice. Along the way, I set up publishing consultancy, Inkwell, and the website writing.ie. I found that I had to learn the process. One of the reasons why I set up Inkwell was because I needed to learn more about writing, and I felt that workshops were probably the best way to do that. Inkwell was originally literally a series of one-day intensive fiction writing workshops facilitated by best-selling authors, and I began them because I couldn't do a creative writing course in the evening, but I knew I needed to learn that little bit of fiction writing technique that would take me through to what I hoped would become a bestseller. The writer E.R. Murray has a great analogy about landing that publishing deal. She says, we all play football in the back garden and watch the Premiership on TV, but none of us expect to go out and play for AC Milan in the morning. Writing is just like football, but lots of people, me included, start off thinking that they are literally heading out in that Milan jersey. It takes hours of training, as Malcolm Gladwell suggests in his book Outliers. It can take 10,000 hours to reach the tipping point of success. And it takes hours of writing to find your voice, the key, which is one of the key elements that publishers are looking for. But hopefully, if you can get your information from the right places and teach yourself the fiction writing techniques that I didn't know when I started, then you can cut down that time considerably. Way back in 1999, when my husband went sailing across the Atlantic for 8 weeks, I had an idea for a book, and that's really when I started writing. I started literally scribbling, writing it longhand, and then typing it up in the office at evenings and weekends. And I was completely convinced that book was going to be a bestseller. The minute the last full stop went down, I started sending it out. I didn't know anything about the publishing world or how it worked, and I made all the rookie mistakes. And as you'll hear during this course, writing is very much rewriting, and polishing up that first draft before anybody sees it is crucial. As with many first books, I can see now that I felt I had to prove that I could write, and it was the first part of it. The prologue was crammed with words of four syllables, and I know it. I know the second half was better than the first, but even so, it needed an awful lot of work before anybody saw it. And that book was rejected everywhere, and with good reason. So I wrote another book, Crime Again, and by the time I got to book three, a book called Dead Reckoning, I think I got the hang of the writing thing. Sarah Webb is a very good friend of mine. She's an author of over 30 books, and she gave me the best possible advice very early on. She said, just keep writing. And that is really, really so important, and is absolutely the advice that I pass on to everybody. You only get better through practice, and you can only get better through more writing. The other thing I have on my notice board is a sign that says that the worst words you write today are better than the words you didn't write. So hold that one as well. I set up Inkwell because I wanted to learn to write better. And I wanted to learn these fiction writing techniques. And I wanted to learn from best-selling authors because I'm a great believer that there's a reason why people are bestsellers. They've learned the craft, they've learned the trade. And so I set up a series of one-day intensive fiction writing workshops. They were originally set up during the winter on a Saturday. My husband was working shifts, he was in the police, and so I couldn't do an evening class or a course. And so I literally set them up on a Saturday morning or a Saturday daytime. They were a full day course. And as I say, I wanted to hear from best-selling authors. And I set them up so entirely around my calendar and what I needed. And I also wanted to connect with other writers because I think connecting with writers is very, very important in this world. It's a very strange, solitary world, writing, and nobody really understands it apart from another writer. And so that was very important to me too. But then I discovered in setting up Inkwell that, in fact, lots of other people were in the same situation. And Inkwell became enormously successful, and we had people coming from all over the world to do the workshops, which was fantastic. But it also meant that I sat through, I've probably sat through more workshops, because I went to every single one, than probably very many people in the world. I've also interviewed hundreds of authors. I've been running a series since the start of lockdown with my agent Simon Trewin, called Winning the Writing Game, which is over on the Facebook page, the writing.ie Facebook page. And they are weekly interviews with a whole series of authors, from Joanne Harris through to Owen Colfer, just loads of them. And every single week we learn something new, and there was nuggets of gold in every single interview. So I would really encourage you to go back and have a look at those, because I learn, and I still learn every single time I hear a writer speak. I learn something new, and that's really what writing is all about. It's a continual process. You're continually learning, you're continually getting better. It took me quite a long time, 15 years, before Little Bones was published. But when it was published, originally it was written as a book called The Dressmaker. When it was published, it went straight into #1 and was there for 4 weeks. And it then stayed in the charts for another 4 weeks, and it was shortlisted for Irish Crime Novel of the Year. So I got there in the end, but it was quite a long process. So the idea of this course is very much to try and show you some of the techniques and tips that I've learned along the way, to pass on some of the knowledge that I have through my own work, and through my own books, but also through all those interviews and those workshops that I've been part of and given, and some of the knowledge from the authors that I've chatted to. So what I've done is I've divided up a course into 5 parts, and the idea is that you can choose which bits you need. So some of you might be on third draft, and you might feel that the last unit, which is all about editing, is the one for you. You might find that actually you're halfway through your second draft, and you know that your showing, not telling, isn't quite working. So there's a different unit that's going to be right for you. If you're just starting out, then you can start with the first one and work your way through. But literally, it's a build your own course system, this, so that you can pick and choose which ones you want to do. In Unit 1, I'm going to talk about ideas. What is your idea? Whether it's going to work into a novel, or whether it's going to be better for a short story, and how you need to work with that idea in order to get it story ready, if you like. In Unit 2, we're going to be looking at developing character. It's called Whose Story Is It? And I'm going to be covering everything that I know about character. I think characters are absolutely crucial in all fiction, regardless of the genre that you're writing. In Unit 3, we're going to look at plotting and planning and what's right for you. Now, I'm a plotter and a planner, but I also like to be able to have the freedom to escape my plan and go off in whichever way the book takes me. And I'll be bringing you help from other authors who don't plot, who write organically, and also talking to you about my system. And really, it's a case of you taking what works for you and developing your own process. In Unit 4, we're actually going to be starting to write and looking at tips and techniques to get your story moving, how to deal with writer's block, and how to show, not tell, and why it's so important. And in Unit 5, I'm going to be looking at editing and revising, and how to make that first draft better and ready for someone to see. The idea is, with these video tutorials, that, as I say, you can pick and choose which bits work for you. You can do the whole lot or just one, whatever works. But I really want to try and bring some of the information and the tips that I've learned along the way to you, to try and make that process a little bit easier for you. So I do hope you're going to be able to join me, and you just need to click the links. If you're on the Sandblake Books website already, you just need to click the links below this video, and if you're seeing this for YouTube for the first time, you can pop over to the Sandblake website and you'll find links to each course, which are going to be a series of videos just like this, and hopefully I'll be sharing you some of my knowledge. So thank you very much indeed for joining me, and I hope to see you soon.